most of the advice that you're getting, it's ignoring one of the most powerful assets that you actually have as a coach and an expert. Does anybody want to guess what that most powerful asset is? I'm giving you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hey, coach. Amanda here with the Coaches Plaza. If you can see me and you can hear me, let me know in the chat. And we've helped many coaches, probably just like you, build businesses that they love. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the changes that I made in my social media over the last year that have had a huge impact on my growth and the business's growth and all of that growing. I'm super excited that you're here. And by the way, if you want the full recording for today, make sure that you are a member of the Clients Over Chaos community. That's where we post the replays. So there you go. Hey, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you write something. You write it on a piece of paper or you write it in your journal. And then that idea ends up landing in the eyeballs and the ears of your exact perfect person that you just really want to work with, that you really want to have as your client, that you really want to support their goals, right? Are you with me now? Like, that's what it's actually really about as a coach, is really building a connection with people. So I called this viral visibility on social media, a coach's guide to going viral. But it's really not about the numbers being these really huge numbers. And full disclosure, I am somebody who has a great following, an awesome following, a strong following, but it is also a small following. I don't have millions of followers on Instagram, super far from it. And, here's what I do have though. I started with 8 names on a post-it when I started this business like 8 years ago, because I was completely scared of social media. I was scared of being seen. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of being taken advantage of by scammers and con artists. And so like for me, you got to understand, like, where I am is kind of a miracle compared to where I was, because like I said, I've started this business with 8 names on a post-it. Like, no joke. I was really nervous about building relationships and doing it virtually, but I was also really determined to build freedom for my time and to access financial freedom and to have the freedom to, for example, retire my husband, which is what I did like 9 months after those eight names on a post-it. And one of the things I really want to nip right in the butt, like right now, I know it's nip in the bud, but it's like nip in the butt, whatever. I just want to take care of right now is this really common myth that you can just post and get clients. Posting content and sharing content and posting content on the internet is a strategic activity that is part of a bigger strategy. So the bigger strategy, and what I was saying is like, what's strategic about it is the invitation to conversation. So I had a coach once who said to me, one of my mentors, he said, the currency is in the conversation. And I was like, oh, that's so good, right? If your social media is just a bunch of things you've posted and no one engages with it, it doesn't spark any conversation at all. It's not a backgrounder on who you are and how you think and what you do. It's just noise. Like, that doesn't help anybody, right? So yeah, you get it. Okay, cool. I started from this place where I was super, super nervous. And then I started getting into the doing. I overcame the fear of posting and I started posting. And I discovered over the years that there's a strategic approach to how you can create that content that is more likely to build a relationship. Now, like I said, I want to be super clear about where I'm at. So let me just share with you some statistics. By focusing on the right kind of visibility, I was able to grow my audience to over 4,675 followers on Facebook. So let me know, like, you having a few thousand people that you could connect with might make a difference in your business, yes or no? I've got 1,496 connections on Instagram as of this morning. I've got 1,905 connections on LinkedIn. And I have over the years collected about 20,000 email addresses. And a lot of those emails are no longer active because here's the thing that I discovered about my market. People join the coaching or entrepreneurship frenzy and they leave in droves. So, my active list is comparatively a fraction of what the total is, but like, do you think that if you had 20,000 opportunities to build a relationship with someone, you would probably have pretty strong foundation for a sustainable business over time, right? That's a yes or yes, obviously. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about why most advice that you're getting is probably failing you, and it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's just there's so much pressure to perform and there's so much pressure to push content out there, and people's attention spans are like super, super short. So we're going to talk about like what is the most common advice that's probably failing you, and then like what to do instead, because I don't want to leave you hanging. We're also going to walk through something I've never taught before, and I'm super excited to teach it to you because when I finally got it, I was like, oh, this is huge. So I'm going to teach you something called the content thesis. The content thesis, okay? It's a framework that will allow you to find that sweet spot of connection in your content. And if you're just like into it, you like the nerdy, I'm actually going to share something really cool, which is after we've got our content thesis, we know exactly what we're going to post, why we're posting it. I'm going to talk to you about performance psychology. No one talks about this. Like, this is really, really powerful stuff, but I'm going to share with you some specific secrets that help people continue to show up and watch and like make room for you on their calendar and want to spend time with you. Like, that's exactly what we need to do as coaches, is build connection and time so that we're motivating people into action. If you're just like, yes, I get it, right? Like me being able to perform and engage in a way that makes people want to take action, that is a huge, 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 huge skill for a coach. And then the final bit is I'm going to talk about my posting strategy that allows me to leverage one idea, one piece of content, and produce, no kidding, like 300 pieces of content from one idea. It's true. This girl's lazy. I figure out all of the strategies so that I can do one thing really, really well and get the benefit of like 300 posts. Okay. So I hope you're into this. Yay. Okay. You guys are like doing great. And if you're on the gram, hello, make sure you send me the word DWM, do what matters, after we're done the live today so I can send you the replay. Okay. So let's talk about why most advice you're getting about being viral on social media generally sucks. Okay. And so here's the problem with the general advice. What nobody really tells you about going viral as a coach, and by the way, let me just like quantify my terms. Viral does not mean Kardashian famous. Okay. It doesn't mean celebrity. And that's like the whole thing is that people are so obsessed with being a celebrity and being famous that a lot of the advice is really just about getting views. But views are not necessarily the currency of connection, right? So here's the thing. It's an indicator. Like, obviously, if people are viewing your stuff, that's a good thing. And if you're increasing the number of views, that's a good thing. But if you're getting views from people who don't care about what you do, are you going to be able to connect with them in a way that's going to motivate them into action, get them into commitment, have them pay for your services and programs, right? So when I'm talking about viral, I am very specifically talking about creating content that expands beyond your current friends and family bubble. All right. We all have a bubble, a network bubble. And that network bubble is with your current friends. It's with your colleagues at work. It's with your family members, and your content bubble, right? Like your audience bubble right now is probably represented by the connections you have on your personal Instagram, your personal LinkedIn, your personal Facebook, right? And shout out bubble if you're tracking what I'm saying. So viral is when we push beyond the bubble, when we're meeting new people, when we're engaging new people, when we're building new relationships, when we're deepening relationships with people who maybe they have been connected with us, but they haven't connected in a long time, and they haven't connected before about our coaching. So like when I'm talking about viral, I'm talking about expansion, I'm talking about connection, I'm talking about deeper relationships, okay? And expanding into relationships that have the potential to go somewhere. Okay, so is that cool if we talk about it like that? Because here's the thing, like when we go viral and we're pushing past the bubble, you're growing and you're going, and that's good, right? when we're talking about viral for vanity's sake, there's literally websites where you can buy followers for a few $100s. So if that's all you want, just go spend $100, get a bunch of bots, a bunch of strangers, a bunch of people who could never buy from you, and you too can have 50,000 and 100,000 followers, and it is completely fake and they won't actually engage with you. Okay, so shout out engage in the chat if you're clear that we're trying to attract the right people who need the transformation that you offer. Okay, and that they're better off being in connection with you. Even if they never buy anything, they're better off being in connection with you. So it's about your content really spreading beyond your current audience. That's really the goal, to reach people who are actively looking for the solutions that you provide. And it's like visibility plus intention, right? Visibility plus intention. Now, most viral advice really just focuses on like have a hook, right? And I used a hook to get you here to this live stream, right? And so I used something that was likely to like catch your attention, stop the scroll, get you to focus and be here and make the time. So the hook is super important, but it doesn't stop there, okay? You can dance your way to lots of followers. You can, right? I don't, but you can, right? And you can copy and paste celebrity gossip kind of content and you will get more followers. But most of the advice that you're getting, it's ignoring one of the most powerful assets that you actually have as a coach and an expert. Does anybody want to guess what that most powerful asset is? Okay. And just let me know in the chat. I'm giving you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's your voice. It's your voice. It's your voice and your energy, right? Those two things are very tough to replicate. And it also, here's what nobody else tells you, there's systematic ways to be able to identify what is likely to resonate with your perfect person. You can set it up as scientific research, okay? And here's the other thing that nobody tells you. It's not just about the content itself. So when I very first started, I was posting and I would just bleed onto the pages of my content, like I was bleeding for it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be so dang good that no one could turn away. And when I say I wanted it to be so dang good, I hired the best copywriters in the world. I worked in some of the fanciest masterminds you can imagine. I was trading ideas, like, you guys, when I say I was committed to making really good content, I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars committed to this idea. And the reason why is because I firmly believe that connection comes down to communication, and our ability to communicate with excellence allows us to facilitate a relationship. And the thing is that even after all of that, I would put all this blood, sweat, and tears into creating something that was just like phenomenal. I'd spend entire weekends on a post. I'd spend sometimes a week on a post. And then I'd launch it out into the intranet sphere and it would plummet, right? Like a lead balloon. It just didn't resonate. It didn't catch, even though I had a ton of training and even though I was modeling what I thought were successful people were doing. And it was just like the most frustrating thing ever. There's a better way. There's a better way. And so one of those things that nobody tells you is that it's actually more about what happens after the post than before. Woo-wee! So the post itself is actually, like, most of my posts take me roughly 2 minutes to create. So all of my effort is actually on research, okay? Research, scientifically structured research. And then it's in post engagement. It's in having a conversation with the people who are engaging with my content and engaging back with their content. So very few people will tell you about this. Now, I'm not a big fan of engagement circles. So if you've heard of an engagement circle, it's when you make friends with a lot of people and you all like and comment on each other's posts, and it's supposed to give social proof. It can kind of work. But if your content's not very good, what you're going to find is that your friends are always commenting on your stuff and you're not ever getting new friends. Who needs some new friends, right? Like new friends, I'm not saying throw out the old friends. I'm saying, like, if your stuff is so good that new friends want to be your friend, then you're going to have so much more success as a coach. All right. We're going to talk as well a little bit here, and I'll talk more in future lives about how do you take all that attention, because that's really what we're talking about, is like building attention, seeking attention, structuring to seek attention in a positive way. How do you actually turn that into business, right? Because I've just spent 5 minutes throwing rocks at the idea of buying followers and all that kind of thing. And it's like, I know that I won't be able to today go through like, okay, and here's how you activate the conversation in a super deep way. I get that. That's why I do this every single week, right? Like building a business, dude, if you could get it done in a 30-minute live and just like turn around and make $100,000, power to you, please tell me what live you watched, right? It usually requires some iteration and practice over time and growth. Yes, yes, new friends, please. Totally. Okay. So I promised you I was going to teach you the content thesis framework, okay? The content thesis framework is before you're creating a single piece of content for your socials, whether that's Facebook, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's Instagram, whether that's the TikTok, you need what I call a content thesis. So this is your strategic foundation on which everything that you create, it has viral potential and actual business impact. It's got to have both. Okay. So what is it? Well, we're going to build our thesis following 3 steps, like 3 steps to build basically a foundational document that you can use as a reference, and also you can give to ChatGPT as a reference, and you can also give to an assistant as a reference. You could give it to a business partner as a reference. This content thesis is your hypothesis or your idea of what you think is going to work, and then you're going to try that. We're not just going to guess. We're not just going to like pull things out of the sky. We're actually going to do a little bit of research. So the first step is called gap research. Gap research. This isn't just looking at like trending topics or what dance moves are people engaging with the most. It's strategic intelligence gathering. There's 3 types of gap research that I like to do when I'm building a content thesis. And by the way, I'm building this thesis at least once a month, if not every week. I'm revisiting this thesis, okay? So the first thing is, what are the trending topics in your space? So when I say in your space, I mean in your area of expertise. So what are the trending topics in your space that people are engaging with, talking about, arguing about, sharing about? What is the topic du jour? Okay. The second thing is unmet complaints. Unmet complaints. So what are people complaining about that no one is really addressing very well? I love complaints, right? Complaints are great. Not when people are complaining about me usually, but usually, people complain. They complain about where they get stuck. They complain about where they're getting frustrated. They complain about what's not working, right? And so from a market research standpoint, complaints are gold. Now, keep this in mind because this is something I learned more recently. Just because somebody's complaining doesn't mean that they're ready to take action on it. Okay, so you can catch attention through a complaint, but that's not necessarily going to lead to a conversion. Okay, and like this is nutty and wild, but in the coaching space, the coaching industry, what do you think is the number one complaint? What do you think is the number one complaint? Right? And I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number one complaint. The number one complaint is I don't have enough clients. That's the number one complaint. But that doesn't mean that people are showing up in droves to buy books about how to get a client or to show up to a program on how to get a client. There is a broader expectation that you should be good enough, and that if you're good enough, then people are going to come to you. And so although people complain about not having a client, the commitment to change that, that's actually pretty extraordinary. So that's kind of nuts, right? Because when I first started, I thought, of course, everybody wants to get clients because everybody's complaining about it. But you also want to pay attention to what are people committing to in terms of the change. And that takes me to thing number 3 in your gap research, which is, what is the popular problem solving content? What books are they reading? What channels are they tuned into? What posts are getting traction? What gaps do they leave? What are some of the biggest masterclasses and webinars in your space? Who's running it? And what's the topic? Right? Those are all solutions. And that's where the real traction is for the conversion part. But the complaints are really, really good for catching attention. So I'll give you a perfect example from my business more recently. Everyone talks about like finding your niche. in coaching, but nobody talks about what to do when your niche feels really small or you think you might have picked the wrong one. And that's a gap that I can totally fill. Does that make sense? Gap, right? So gap research, trends, unmet complaints, and popular problem solving content. So the second piece of the content thesis is called the big rocks goal identification. Big rocks, okay? These big rock goals are the transformation that your audience actually wants. So it's the before and the after, okay? So the way I think about this is like, if people were wanting to take a vacation, it's what does their ideal life look like once they're on that vacation? The white sandy beaches, the sunshine, the unlimited buffet, whatever, right? Like, what is their ideal of what their better, brighter future really looks like? Not so much what airplane do they want to be on just yet. So, but what is their idea of what great really, really looks like? Now, this is game changing. Not too many people are going to tell you this, but for your content to be really solid, it's yes, you've got to speak to the really big objectives, the big goals, but it's also really useful to know what are the signs of progress. What are the signs of progress towards the goal? And if you, I call these growth signals, right? Growth signals. They're signals that your person is getting that, like, yes, I'm on the right track. Yes, I'm getting somewhere. I might not be at my final destination yet, but I'm getting somewhere. I'm moving towards that goal. Right? If you're like, I don't have to promise the sun, moon, and stars necessarily. I can talk about how to get to NASA. I can talk about how to get stronger as an astronaut. I can talk about the simulator as well, right? Because all of those things are signs of progress towards taking a trip to the moon, right? Now, this is super key when you're thinking about the big rocks. It's like, what's their growth progress? The next thing is, what are the core obstacles? So the core obstacles are like, what's really stopping them? And coach, it's not enough to say mindset. Mindset's part of it for sure, but get more specific. What is the exact thought that they are having that is stopping them? My friends and family will judge me. I am so sick and tired of being on the learning train and not getting on the earning train. Like, what the heck? What are those actual obstacles? For most people who benefit from coaching, it's that they have a little bit of clarity that's an inch deep and a mile wide about what they're supposed to do, but they struggle with prioritizing and deepening the clarity to a level that they can take action. Who got an aha just then, right? Like really high performers, they have lots of clarity about what to do. They've spent the time in the chat GPT. They got all the answers, right? But they're hesitating on what answer to follow through on. And that's where you can play a really amazing role with your perspective, your expertise, your care, and your focus. Okay. I think honestly, the currency of 2000s and beyond is focus. It's focus and attention. So if you're somebody who can facilitate focus to achieve a goal, holy cow, right? There's so much that you can do for somebody when you realize that your real value is directing focus. Okay. The last thing that I think about with big rocks is what else is demanding their attention. So these are competing priorities. For your person, what are their typical competing priorities that are preventing their focus, preventing their progress, preventing them from just knowing what to do next, right? And with actioning it and holding themselves accountable. So that's the vacation description, their growth signals, the core obstacles, and the competing priorities. So all of that is their big goals, all right? And so if we're just continuing to track here, we started with the gap research, we moved on to the big goals. Now we're on to the third part of the content thesis. And y'all, we haven't created one stick of content yet. But an ounce of preparation is worth a pound of posting, okay? So here we go. Third big thing is, what are your people already doing to solve the problem? So what is it that everybody else in your expertise area is saying? And then we're looking for the gaps. So 3 big categories of those generic solution issues. Number 1 is just generic flaws. So where is that common advice really falling short? Common advice is like post a lot, use hooks, track your success, the end, right? Like that's what everybody says. And the thing is, it's not clear enough. How do you organize your tests? How do you build a strong idea of what's going to work? How do you actually do the research? Where do you actually go? Right? That additional clarity helps with action because then people can actually get traction. Okay. Missing details. What practical steps are they missing? So most coaches are rushing into the marketing phase and they're not doing this research that I'm talking about to build the content thesis. And so they don't know what they're doing. It just feels like they are shooting from the hip. And then you can work really hard shooting at the hip, like from the hip for a long time before you pause and kind of go, is this working? Right? And that's draining. It's exhausting. And you're probably seeing a lot of your friends do that, right? So what are the missing details? Third big thing when you're analyzing other people's solutions or the generic solutions is where do the rules break? Where do the rules break? So that's what I was talking about in terms of like viral for the sake of entertainment versus growth via education and engagement, right? If the common advice is here's what to do to get a lot of views, but it's not exceptional in terms of being able to monetize the views and monetize the relationships proactively, like that's a exception, right? It's not about being as big as possible. It's about being as big as possible while also serving your audience in a way that they want to be served and finding the few people who want to commit in a deeper way and want your help. So it's what are the exceptions to the rules? Okay. So that was like the really big framework for today. I really want to go over just a couple of things for the performance psychology because I promised to do that. You can get a lot done by fixing your energy when it comes to showing up. So here's my general rule of thumb. If I'm not excited to talk about it, right? If I can't project into the camera that this is what I want to talk about, this is super helpful, this is what I want to do, then I've either got to change my energy or I've got to change the topic. So my energy can change by going for a run, by checking in on how long it's been since I had a sandwich, by literally deleting social media from my phone has been something I've been testing lately. Amazing for my energy and follow through. I still use the computers, the devices and all that kind of thing, but just like not being plugged in 24/7, massive. Like if you can just unplug and kind of reactivate into why you're doing what you're doing, so amazing. Most people, when they're teaching how to get more reach on social media, they're talking about what is being said, but they're not talking about how you're saying it. Does that make sense? So, a couple of ideas. One, variability of your tone and your emotional projection. Variability of your tone and your emotional projection. So, what the heck does that mean? Like, if you're talking about something frustrating, let your frustration come through. If you're talking about something that is like inspiring and hopeful, then make sure that you change your tone to match that. And one of the tricks I'll teach you for tone just right away is record yourself. Right now, like every week, guaranteed I have a recording. Every week, guaranteed I'm going to watch this recording. And I'm always improving on how can I connect with you about what I'm saying emotionally. Most communication is not actually the words. Most communication is the tonality and the body language of what you're saying and the conviction with which you say it. And when you very first start doing this, you're probably going to be really nervous. You're going to run out of breath. You're going to feel like there's an elephant sitting on your chest, right? And those things are super normal. But the only way I've found to really address that is to move through, right? Move through it and push yourself to do it, right? Even if it's making you crazy sweaty and you're saying a lot and like a lot and, all those speech tags, like, Okay, the pace and the pauses, okay? You don't have to fill every second. Shout out pause if you're like, oh, there's like a cool tension you can create with a pause, right? So that pause can cause people to lean in. Now, a lot of new speakers, they tend to put too many pauses or they put the pauses in at kind of weird moments. So you do want to think about like, when would the person sitting across from me probably be leaning in? When would they stop looking at their notes and look up at you, right? It's a really powerful device when you learn how to use it. So there you go. Monotone can kill retention like the fastest. So when most people start doing content and video content, they're like, I have learned something that has changed my life dramatically. And when I changed my life dramatically, it got a lot better. let me tell you about the thing that I learned how to do. And it's just like, oh my God, I am asleep, but also I am scrolling. So you having like variability, melody in what you're saying. And, there's times to be very structured in what you're saying, but that monotone can really kill the retention. Okay, so last big thing is I want you to work on your face. Shout out face in the chat, right? So is your face full of enthusiasm? Is your face full of conviction? Do you have a little twinkle with what you're saying? Are you here? Are you really here with your audience and with who you are wanting to connect with? Because again, most coaches are really, really nervous because they're like, oh, I have not been considered an expert before. And what if you find out that I'm actually a giant fraud? Right? And because people are worried about being found out as a fraud, they kind of inadvertently end up putting this mask on that is just like, you should pity me, you should feel sorry for me, you should feel sad for me. And it's really unconscious. So again, like the way through this is through this, right? And so this is one of the biggest things that I work on with my clients that are really committed to like showing up in a new way is we work on the conviction with which you say things. And some of that is psychological, getting connected to your why, but it's also physiological, sociological. So whether you know it or not, you're looking for cues from the other people to tell you you're doing a good job. And when you're not getting those cues, it can seed doubt and it can seed like, maybe I shouldn't be saying what I'm saying. So one way that I really overcame this is I just started speaking with more conviction in smaller, safer groups. That's where I started, right? Smaller, safer groups. People who already liked me, people who were already champions of what I was saying. I would just really lean into those relationships and connections. And I actually found that when I started working with coaching clients, this accelerated my growth like tenfold because being in a Zoom room with people who've paid to be there, your conviction that you want to do a good job and that it matters goes way up versus free content on social media. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not famous now. I won't be famous tomorrow if I don't do this. Right. So I think a little bit of performance pressure can make a huge difference, but in like that smaller, more controlled container. So I like to tell coaches, like the best way to get really good at coaching is to coach. And I don't mean other coaches, I mean coaching other people. And that's why in the First 5 Club, I teach you how to activate your network and invite people forward into a coaching relationship as soon as possible. Because I know that if you get that practice with people who don't have your coaching education, don't have your coaching background, don't feel obligated to tell you that you're doing a good job, because if they tell you you're doing a bad job, you might criticize them back. You want real humans. We call them normies, right? Real people who have normal lives that are benefiting from your coaching. That's what the First 5 Club is really all about. Okay. Last thing I wanted to share with you today is like, what do you do with the content? I mentioned earlier that I could get 300 posts out of just one well thought out piece of content. How the heck do I do that? The way I do it is I spend a lot more time, energy on that content thesis to pick topics for my live streams. Okay. I'm telling you just like the full dirt. This is exactly what I do. Topic for the live stream. What's happening on the live stream? I've got my camera in place. I've got, like right now as I do the live stream, I've already produced 2 pieces of content, right? And when I hit end and I hit post, I'm already going to have 4 pieces of content. Why? Because the replay is going to be out there. So I take a moment after I'm done and I just add a little bit of a caption and I leave the Instagram feed on there, which by the way, one of my worst performing posts of the week. The best way to get access to the replay and to be sure that you actually see these trainings is to join our Clients Over Chaos community. You can go to next5clients.com, next5clients.com, and you can come join us completely for free and get the full library of all of these trainings. But already you can see that I've got 4. Who's tracking that, right? Now with 30 minutes of content to 45 minutes of content, I'm going to be able to get at least 15 solid short form reels. 15 solid short form reels, right? And the way I do that is I use a tool called Opus Clip, where I can pull all the clips and it actually organizes them based on trending topics and all that kind of thing to improve. It usually actually extracts about 30 clips whenever I do it, but I find that maybe 15 are going to be usable. Everybody tracking so far? So 4 plus 15. Amazing. 19. Oh, we take this episode and then we're going to recut it and put it on our YouTube channel. Okay, so YouTube channel, and then on Libsyn, and then on Spotify and Apple. So that's another 4 posts before I've really edited anything. So goodness. Okay. So I'm losing track. That's what, 8 pieces of content before I've really done a strong editing job, and then 15 short pieces of content. Okay, so 15 short pieces of content I can post on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, right? LinkedIn, Facebook. Y'all tracking that, right? So 15 times 5 is what? 75 posts right there. 75 posts. But you want to hear what's more bananas than bananas? I can take the transcript of those shorts and, of course, from the long form, and I can make at least 15 more posts. Okay, so that's we're getting up into the insane realm. All right, that's like 1,000 posts if you really want it to be. Now, I don't usually do that. I usually do like the best of the best, but I do long form, medium form, short form, caption, yes photo, no photo. Okay, so that's like 6 of them, but I'm using the same source content to do that. And then on top of that, I have ideas that just like kind of ping, and I throw those into the mix too. But can you see how quickly you get up to 300? Whenever we do a podcast interview, we've got the podcast on all the places. We do exactly what I just said with the content leveraging. Plus, we do a LinkedIn article and an SEO optimized web blog on the website. And I know that sounds really overwhelming, and that is why I have a whole program in the Experts Network where I walk people through how to do all of this, including the market research, and I provide the coaching over the long term to be able to implement this system. But do you see how you can access virality by having higher frequency of posting, better energy in what you post, and better alignment to the topics of what you're covering, that people are like, ooh, I want to learn about that. If this was super valuable to you, can you do me a favor and shout out loved it in the chat, because that'll really, really help me to know whether this was super helpful. If you have another second and you want to share, like, this is my favorite part, I love the part where you talked about XYZ. I always want that feedback. That feedback loop is worth more than you can possibly know. So if you want my full framework and to have a starting point for this content thesis, I can send you my 1-page social planner. So let's see, if you're live with me now, I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now that you can grab that 1-page planner. And if you're on the gram, just send me a DM that says planner, and I will make sure to send you my 1-page social media planner. And actually, I've got it right here. Look at this. Fit your thesis on 1 page. So when you get it, you're going to get some additional training as well. And like I said, if you want like the full training from this week, make sure you join our Clients Over Chaos community at next5clients.com. That's next number 5clients.com. That's where I post the replays. That's where I do daily motivational gems that are going to help you to really move this business forward in a meaningful way. It's also a great place to post your questions and your thoughts and what you loved. And if you would love to see some additional content focused on particular things that you're working on, of course, post freely in that Clients Over Chaos community. We're always looking to serve you in a better way. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for the extra time this week. I definitely overbuilt today's outline, but I wanted to make sure that I hit everything. And for those of you that stuck with me the whole time, thank you so much for doing it. For those of you catching me on the replay, thank you so much for doing that as well. Let's keep doing what matters. Let's help other people do what matters as well. And we will see you again very soon.